What's up guys, welcome to Daily Dose of Reddit. This is your host, Zach, and today's subreddit is r/ProRevenge. This story's called, I recruited an unwitting army to annoy a butthole. Back in the early 90s, my friend, I'll call him Lou because that's his name, was selling his RX-7 via an ad in the old print auto trader. It came out every Thursday, so that first weekend was critical for sales. The very first guy that came to see it on Saturday said he wanted to buy it after driving it. Of course, he had to finance, so they couldn't finish the sale during the weekend. Lou was worried about losing all the bites from the new ad, so he had asked for a deposit of $500. The guy wrote a check. Lou told the rest of the callers that weekend that it was sold and, unfortunately, didn't ask for their numbers in case it fell through. This story predates caller ID availability in my area by a couple of years, so those leads were gone. As you surely expect by now, the guy flakes on Monday and Lou deposits the check. Payment stopped. Big surprise. Sitting around my apartment, we schemed revenge, but all we had to go on was the check. Lucky for karma, there was a phone number printed on it. Our first idea was to write a little program to dial his number repeatedly from my modem, but that would be easily stopped and probably get us in direct trouble. Then, Lou got a page from his work. This was back in the one-way pager days. You called a pager's dedicated phone number, it sounds a tone, then you punch digits for the number you want to be sent to the pager. The person with the pager receives the number you entered and presumably calls it. Everyone with a pager made sure that the people who needed to get a hold of them had the number for their pager. You'd see their pager numbers in print and TV ads all the time for various services. Boom. Angelic choir sings, heavenly light goes off. Lou's pager number and my pager number had the same prefix, middle 3 digits. What if we randomly dial numbers with that prefix and page them all to this guy's number? So we order a pizza, open some beers, and start looking through the yellow pages at locksmiths and tow truck services to find more pager prefixes. We wind up with a dozen or so. After that, it's half an hour of coding in ye old Borland C++. I put together a program that would cycle through our list of known prefixes and add a random final 4 digits to get a random pager. It calls the pager's number, pauses, then dials this butthole's number and throws a *911 suffix on there for good measure, which is something people with pagers understood to indicate an emergency of some kind. The whole thing was just generating a string like ATDT602XXXYYYY butthole number *911#, where XXX is the pager prefix and YYY is random. Commas make pauses since you need to connect to the paging service before you can enter the message, make string, send to modem, wait for no carrier, hang up, repeat. We start eating the pizza and let it fly. I was very picky about my devices, so my modem was a US Robotics Courier. You could set an S register to control how long it would sound each tone when dialing. Uber nerds like myself would keep tinkering with that to get it as fast as possible while still being recognized by the phone service. It was very fast. I would swag it could run through 4 pages per minute, so this guy would get 240 calls an hour. We just watched it run and laughed our asses off. We realized pretty early on that we didn't really know if it was working, so we wandered down to the 7-Eleven and called him from a payphone, just in case he could somehow trace it or the popo were on the case and watching. A man answered and I said, "Hello, I just got a page at this number." I heard an audible sigh and then he just hung up. Gold! We ended up running it for a few hours, then let it go quiet for a few days. Then we scheduled it to start dialing in the middle of the night every few days. Plus, we'd fire it up by hand randomly whenever we had a party. We checked again from the 7-Eleven after a week and it went to an answering machine, which did the rapid tone at the end of the greeting to indicate the tape was full. We reasoned that the line was still ringing anyway, so we kept at it for another month or so. Eventually, we got the disconnected warning when we made one of our regular checkups. I'm sure he just changed the number. I like to think about that guy answering the phone after a few days of silence when we started it up. I can vividly imagine his response at the "Did someone page me to this number?" as he slams down the phone and then it rings again a few seconds later. Or, of course, coming home from work and having an answering machine full of random people asking about being paged. And yeah, we annoyed several thousand people into calling this guy by the end, but each of those people was only put out for a single call. At cost, yes, but a necessary one for justice. That's good revenge. Oh my god. I don't have much to say other than that. It's really funny. Dude, just imagine that voicemail box just full of people. Hey, I got a page. Hey, I got a page. I don't know why they're all Canadian, guys. This story's called "Accuse Me of Stealing? You Will Lose Everything." First post, be kind. This happened way back in the dark ages, 1986. I was 21 at the time, Sam, and working for a gas station that was associated with a certain grocery store chain in Washington state. It was owned by a company not affiliated with said chain, but had locations at nearly every one. As this was long before the days of debit cards, this was a cash-only gas station. We didn't even take credit cards. Customers would pull up, pump their gas, and then come to my window to pay. We also sold cigarettes. No drinks, no snacks. Customers couldn't even get into my booth. I had been working there about a year when the company announced it was closing the location. My manager and I were offered positions at another location upstate, and we both accepted. We moved our respective families and started our new jobs as new hires. This station was incredibly busy. We did more business in 8 hours than my old location would do in a week. This location also had a different setup. Here, you would pull into the station from a single entrance, pump your gas, and then drive forward to a single exit where the Pay Here booth was located. There were always 2 cashiers on duty. Each cashier had a cash drawer. One thing I should note, there were also no computers, so closing the drawer down between shifts was time-consuming and tedious. We had to manually count the cigarettes remaining and count the cash drawers. We would fill out an end-of-shift report listing the starting balances and ending balances. This honestly just sounds the same. At the end of the shift, the total of gallons sold and total cigarettes sold should equal the cash balance. It is important to note here that not once in the year I had worked for the previous location had I been off by more than 10 cents. It's honestly not too different nowadays. It's still incredibly annoying and tedious. The following morning after my first shift, I was informed by the manager that I was short $50. Impossible, I said. I balanced out yesterday. He said that I must have stolen that money after I had completed the paperwork. I just looked at him and said, no, I didn't. He gave me a verbal warning and said if it happened again, I would be fired and the stolen money would be deducted from my paycheck this week. In the 5 days that followed, I realized quickly that the manager was up to something. My old manager, who is just another worker now, was also accused of stealing, as was one other new employee. I can't vouch for the other employee, but I'm pretty sure she did nothing wrong. The employees that had been there a while were never accused of anything. I did some checking and found out this manager was relatively new, had only been there about 6 months, and the other cashiers had been there before him. Only new cashiers were being accused of stealing, and that location had been having stealing problems for about 6 months, and the turnover was high with the new employees. I came to work at 6 a.m. on a Monday only to be told I was being fired for cause. The manager accused me of taking $500 out of my drawer the previous Friday. He said he only discovered it this morning, even though he had worked Saturday and Sunday. I said okay and left. I was pretty angry, and instead of going home, I parked in the grocery store parking lot and proceeded to settle in to watch the gas station. I knew that at 9 a.m. sharp, he would take the cash in the safe and make the weekend deposit. At 9 a.m., he left the gas station and headed to the bank. But instead of walking into the bank, he walked into the Indian casino next door. It's not really a casino like we think of today, but more of a betting parlor for the races. It did have slot machines, but no card tables. I think, well, this is interesting. He comes out of the casino at exactly 10 a.m., walks next door to the bank, does his business, and then heads back to the gas station. I head home with a plan. Every morning, I follow him from the gas station to the casino. I take a picture of him leaving and one of him arriving at the bank and walking into the casino. I take pictures of him coming out and then heading to the bank. I do this for 5 days straight. He even went on Saturday. On day 3, my old manager was fired for stealing $150. I get the film developed, no digital camera in the dark ages, note the times and dates on the back of each one. Then I call the main office of the gas company. It's after 5, but I'm hoping someone is there, and there is. I speak to a woman and explain my situation, and she says she knows exactly who I should speak to and transfers me. By some grace of God, she has transferred me to none other than the president/CEO of the company. I tell him my story and tell him I did not steal from his company and can prove who actually did. He took down my information and said he would be in touch. I'm thinking to myself, yeah, right. The next morning, I went to the station to perform my usual observation of the manager. At 9 a.m., he leaves for the bank. At 10 a.m., he comes out. At that moment, 2 stern-looking gentlemen approach him. One pulls out his wallet and shows him something. The other one is talking. The manager goes pale and takes a step back. Next thing I know, he is being escorted to a car I had noticed and they drive off. I lose him at the traffic signal, so I head back to the station. They all show up about 5 minutes later, and a few minutes after that, a police cruiser pulls in. The officer talks to the stern gentleman and proceeds to place the manager in handcuffs. The other man says nothing, but is glaring daggers at the manager. The president called me later that afternoon and informed me that the manager had been arrested for embezzlement. Turns out that in 6 months, he had managed to steal about $5,000. He would take the store cash into the casino and gamble with it. If he won, he would make the normal bank deposit. If he lost, he would make the deposit and note in his records that we had been short the previous day. The CEO had already been focusing on that location because of the stealing and high turnover rate, but my information helped them figure out what exactly had been going on. I was thanked and sent a substantial check as a reward. My old manager was offered the manager's job and I was offered my old job back. I declined as I had already found another job that I liked more and paid better. The gambling manager was sentenced to 1 year in jail in order to attend counseling for his gambling addiction. His wife divorced him and took their 3 children to California. His house was foreclosed on and he ended up in a homeless shelter. Don't accuse me of stealing. I will get revenge. Dude, addiction does something to people. I hope he eventually learned how to not, be a poopy person. And hopefully he got out of homelessness because that's a not fun way to live. But damn, OP, I'm glad everything worked out for you. It's kind of cool that they sent you a check. Alright, this story's called Unwilling to Pay? Let Them Eat Semen Cake. So, I'm a 17-year-old web dev who can make basic websites and stuff to earn money for video games. The job's pretty easy for the pay. I get picked up by some local bakery so people could pre-order cakes and stuff online. Took a few hours to puke out a functional back end and a day to make it all pretty. Thanks, Bootstrap. I had agreed for 700 rupees rupees, basically $10, which is insanely cheap even for India. Dude, no, that's not even a joke. Like, fast food burgers over there are around that same price. Like, that's... Bro, have some respect for your labor. But all I need is video game money, so I'm good with that. When I'm done with the job, they needed to purchase the domains and a server, which I explicitly told them, you pay me 10 and use another 10 to buy a domain and 5 to rent servers. Total is $25. They give me $15 so I could set their stuff up. Once the website was fully operational, I asked for my money, but apparently they didn't want to pay because if I wasn't hosting the server anyways, why do I need compensation? You know, because apparently time has no value. The thing was, I could still access the server as I had the credentials for the server. So I go home, log in, and make one tiny change. The way the website works is that there's a customer page which shows you your orders, and there's a page for the store owners to see orders, payments, etc. Here's what I did. Added a small inconspicuous may contain semen warning in all product details. In the page where it shows your order confirmation to the customer, some options are changed with semen. So like semen frosting by random. The website went down in about a week and they're back selling on Facebook. Guessing someone complained or something. I don't see the complaint. Like, if you don't want semen food, then don't buy semen food. Stop ruining the fun for everyone else. Alright, this story is called Short Little Story. And this is from r/PettyRevenge because ProRevenge is, you know, dry. So about a year ago, in 7th grade, I'm just sitting on a bench minding my own business. So up comes one of my classmates. Now this guy is popular as heck, and also just a bit overweight. Now he wants to sit where I am, and I'm lying down on the bench. But instead of doing the sensible thing and looking where his fat ass is gonna be, he sits on my freaking head. Now, undoubtedly, this hurts a lot, so I slapped him. Not that hard, mind you, about as hard as your 9-year-old cousin hits you when he sees a punch buggy. What? What's a punch buggy? He screams and runs straight to the VP, which leads to us being in the office. So we do the blah blah, you did that bad thing part, and we get to the punishment.
So OP, whenever we dish out to Fat Kid, we also have to give to you.
Now, me being the introvert and him being the extrovert, you might see where this is going. No recess for a month sounds good to me. It did not sound good to Fat Kid. So while he had to sit inside bored, I was just fine reading my book. P.S. Sorry if some parts don't make sense. I don't have the best memory and I have trouble putting my thoughts into words. If only he never sat on your head, we wouldn't be having this issue. We wouldn't have the story either. So, you know what? Good sacrifice, buddy.
Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that bell to never miss an episode.